Today we're going to be looking at crampons, the different types available and what you might need for different aspects of climbing. Now, just to slightly contradict what I just said, although crampons are excellent for winter climbing, we also use them for summer alpinism as well. You're going to need a set of crampons. Even if your objectives are big rock climbs, you still need to approach them, usually across a glacier or snowy terrain. And when you've climbed the route itself, you need to descend it, and sometimes you have to walk off the top. So crampons are extremely useful to have in your gear kit. Now today we're going to split crampons into a few different categories. We've got all-round crampons, which do everything, more technical crampons, uber technical crampons, and fast and light weapons. Now with most things in climbing, all-round items will generally cover most aspects of climbing that you get yourself into. So we're going to start by looking at all-round crampons, and these are fantastic just to have in your kit just in case. As with most items of gear, all-round equipment covers 90% of the climbing you do, so picking the right all-round crampon is very important. So first of all, how do we differentiate an all-round crampon from a more technical crampon? Well, a fantastic place to start is by looking at the front points. This is the Petzl G12, which is a very all-round crampon. Now you can see these points are horizontal when you compare them to a vertical front point on a more technical crampon. So why are they horizontal? Well, the horizontal blades still allow you to cut into steep ice and snow, but they don't catch as much as a serrated edge that you can see here. This means that an all-round crampon is better for general walking around a glacier. Those serrated edges aren't going to catch, they aren't going to slow you down, they aren't going to trip you up. So just walking around a glacier is much easier with these horizontal front points. Now that doesn't mean that you can't climb technical steep ice and snow. Of course you can. It just might not cut into very, very hard ice as well as a more technical crampon. We're going to start with the Petzl Ervice crampon. Now this is sort of the 4x4 of the crampon world. It's going to take you to where you need to be without being particularly snazzy, but with minimal faff. It's quite lightweight at 710 grams, it's got 10 crampon points, and it costs about 90 euros on the EpicTV shop, depending on price fluctuations. If you're looking for something a bit more technical, then check out the Petzl Sack. This has got 12 points, with the extra points being at the front section of the crampon. And those extra points allow you to bite into steeper snow and ice a little bit easier. It is more heavy, around about 810 grams, and it costs a bit more, between 112 and up to 115 euros, depending on the strapping system you buy it with. Now we should talk about the strap or securing options for crampons because it is a little bit complicated. It all comes down to personal preference and also the design of your boot or ski boot. Now a lot of mountaineering boots and ski boots have toe and heel welts, and that allows you to clip the crampons into them. Most of the crampons here have a hybrid system. So if I take, for example, this Petzl G12, we can see there's this heel clip at the back and a wraparound clip at the front that doesn't clip into the toe welt, it goes over the toe of your boot. This is a hybrid system. A fully automatic system is something like this Everread Beastlight, which we'll talk about later, and that has got a clip for the toe at the front and a clip at the back. These are very simple to use. You simply slip in, clip them up, and that's called automatic. Now where it gets even more complicated is this flexi lock system, and that's for boots that haven't got a heel welt or a toe welt. And now for example, the Petzl Leopard comes in an option for the full flexi lock system. So it's all about looking at your boot and working out the type of crampon you need for your boot. Now many of these crampons come with extra attachments, or sometimes you can buy them separately with the attachment you need. Check it out on the EpicTV shop, and remember you can ask our online help chat if you get confused. The other thing we need to talk about is stiffness of the boot itself. Now, boots are graded on a system called B1, B2, and B3. B3 being the stiffest, and B1 doesn't really exist, but it's sort of walking boots, semi-flexible boots. It's simple to put crampons on B2 and B3 boots because they're stiff enough to handle those crampons. But when you get lower than that, you need to work out different systems, which we'll cover on another show. So be aware of the stiffness rating of your boot, the type of heel and toe welt, and also just personal preference. For example, these are actually my crampons, and I love that hybrid system. I like to click in the heel and then wrap around the toe. Try it with a few and see which one works best for you. Okay, so that strapping system's sort of cleared up. So the final all-round crampon we need to look at is the Grival G12. Now, Grival have been making climbing equipment and mountaineering equipment for over 100 years, so they truly know what they're doing. This is around about 142 euros on the EpicTV shop. It's a 12-point crampon setup with those horizontal points up here, and it weighs 898 grams. These are actually Alice's, who works in the marketing department at EpicTV, and she loves the all-round, do-it-all aspect of this crampon. And of course, anti-balling plates underneath to make sure that snow doesn't get all clumped up. So let's move on and look at more technical crampons. Now, generally you'll need these for when the terrain gets a bit steeper, a bit gnarlier. Now, we covered the points earlier, so more technical crampons tend to have these vertical serrated crampon edges, and you can see this serration thing carrying on through the rest of the crampon itself. These are mine. They're very old Petzl Sarkins, and in fact these have actually been updated and they're available on the EpicTV shop with a few more shiny and more serrated edges available for them. Now, the Sarkin weighs 870 grams and it costs about 137 euros on the EpicTV shop. Now, as well as being able to handle steeper, more technical terrain, of course you can still walk around in these. In fact, I use these for pretty much everything, including ski touring. So don't think that just because you get a more technical crampon, you can't walk around a glacier. Yes, it will be slightly less easier to walk around a glacier than if you have something like this, but these will do the job in a push. Now, these Sarkins are excellent, but if you want something a little bit beefier, perhaps a little bit different, then check out the Campkassin Alpinist Pro. These are seriously beefy bits of kit. They weigh more, 960 grams, but cost the same amount-ish as the Petzl Sarkin, around about 144 euros on the EpicTV shop. So why would you go for something more heavy and slightly more expensive? Well, I mean, just look at this thing. It's an absolute weapon of a crampon. It's incredibly stiff. There's no linkage issues here. It's just one solid bit of kit that feels incredible on your feet. You can stick this into really hard ice and it will support your foot during longer pitches. I had the pleasure of wearing this last summer for climbing and I really enjoyed it. So if you're looking at a true weapon of a crampon, then pick the Campkassin over the Petzl. Okay, let's move on to Ober Technical crampons. And before we do, I want to talk about snowballing. Now, we mentioned this briefly earlier, but snowballing is when you're walking along and the snow clumps up underneath your foot. Old style crampons used to have a serious problem with this. So the snow would clump up, it would get to the point where you'd be basically standing on snow and you could slip over, fall off and plummet. Most of these crampons here today have anti-balling plates or some kind of anti-snow clump system built into it, so you wouldn't really need to worry about that anymore. However, if you're walking on a very wet, warm glacier, that snow will build up a bit, and all it requires is a bit of a crack on the boot with your ice axe to knock that snow off. Just a bit of a tip for you. Now, as climbing gear has developed, it's had to keep up with the quality of the athletes developing the routes. Ice climbing and dry tooling has gone into a whole new realm of technical insanity, to steep overhanging caves, and that requires different bits of kit. Now, a lot of Ober Technical crampons will have a monopoint. Now, as it sounds, a monopoint is a single point sticking out the top of the crampon. So why would you want that? Well, simply, it penetrates the ice easier and cleaner than dual points. Just one spike going into the ice. It's very easy to stand on that one point because of the rigidity of the entire crampon. The other advantage with monopoints is it's much easier to get it into cracks. So let's say you're doing hard dry tooling and you need to get your point into a crack and then torque it in, a monopoint is what you're looking for. And in dry tooling only crags, and there are a few of those dotted around the world, you will need monopoints because only these will fit into little drilled holes and make it far, far easier. Okay, let's look at this first one, the Black Diamond Stinger. Now the Black Diamond Stinger has been redesigned to be lighter, better, and to fit onto different types of boot attachments. It's very good value at only 135 euros-ish on the EpicTV shop, so that's great value for something this specialised. Every single tooth on this crampon has a serrated edge, which really shows off its intention. This thing wants to attack hard ice. And that monopoint, as we said earlier, gives you lots of flexibility in ice and on rock climbs as well. This is a replaceable point. Because it's a monopoint, it has to deal with a lot of abuse, and therefore it might wear out a bit quicker than the rest of the crampon points. Having the ability to swap that in and out means it prolongs the lifespan of this product. If, however, this bad boy isn't floating your boat, then you might want to look at a true terminator of the crampon world, the Camp Cassin Blade Runner. It's almost like Camp Cassin got free rein to build something truly, truly bonkers and then stick it on the feet of climbers. This thing is not light. It's over 1,000 grams of weight, and honestly, it doesn't really matter because you're going to have these strapped onto your feet on the most severe of terrain, and that extra bit of weight really won't make any difference to you. It's got this incredible front point system here with this V section that improves that balling issue we were talking about, so it just shrugs off snow and makes the front very, very stiff. You can adjust it as well. Currently it's set up to have a monopoint up front, but it comes with an extra crampon attachment point thing in the box, so you can set up dual points, offset points, whatever you want, this crampon can do it for you. There's a patented heel slider which improves rigidity throughout the crampon, and also there's a lack of wobble on this thing due to the way it's designed. Now, bear with me here. The attachment system has no connection points, so therefore if you were to wiggle it around, it just doesn't really wiggle. But if you get something like my Petzl Sarkins, it's got a bit more wiggle to it. Won't make much difference once it's strapped onto your foot, but having this solid platform underneath you is really going to help when things get difficult. Of course, something this specialised is not going to come cheaply, and it's round about 200 euros on the EpicTV shop. But if you're in the market for something truly spectacular, then, well, it's hard to ignore this bad boy. And finally, let's look at our fast and light category. Having bits of steel and spiky things on your feet are heavy, and they'll be heavy in your bag. You don't necessarily need a crampon that's going to eat steep ice for breakfast if you're going nowhere near steep ice. Fast and light crampons are excellent for rock climbing and summer alpinism. For example, imagine the Walker Spur. For that route, you need to approaching crampons and descending crampons, but you don't usually need them for the entire middle section. They're just extra weight in your bag. Having something light will really speed you up and make the whole thing easier. Also, think about ski mountaineering. Now, often with ski mountaineering, although you are perhaps using crampons to boot pack in sections, you don't usually go near something that requires something like this. A low, light profile is better in your bag and on your feet for that type of mountaineering. There's a fair few options available in this fast and light category, especially on the shop. The Camp Nanotech is one to look out for, about 164 euros on the shop, a bit more rigid than its cord contemporary, and I like the overall stiffness of this unit, and the looks of it looks kind of cool. But what I really want to talk about is the Everread Beastlight, because this is one of the weirdest crampons I've ever seen. This is around 180 euros on the EpicTV shop, about 680 grams, so it really is still in that fast and light category. It's got your aluminium throughout most of it, which keeps the weight down as we discussed, but where's different is these big old steel points coming out the front. These are replaceable, so you can replace them when they get worn down, and this is a real hybrid of a weapon. It's stiff, it's light, but with those vertical front points, you can climb pretty much anything that the terrain is going to throw at you. So if you want an all-rounder with a bit of a specialised sort of angle, then the Everread Beastlight is a very, very good option for you. And, I mean, it's blue and green. Look at the thing. Totally bonkers. Check out the bonkers looking Petzl Leopard, which has this cord system instead of a metal frame to save weight. And boy, does it save weight. These are only 360 grams and cost about 104 euros on the EpicTV shop. They're made of aluminium instead of steel, and they're really designed for those ski touring sessions. Now, of course, being that light, they do have certain downsides. They won't be as stiff on the bottom of your foot, as you can see from the cord. They do strap on properly, but they won't just quite feel as rigid as something like this. That aluminium, again, brilliantly light, but it is softer than steel. And that means that if you're climbing a lot of rock sections, it will wear down quicker than their steel equivalent. The front points are horizontal and quite small. And although that's great for plodding up steep snow, it's not wonderful for standing on when you're climbing ice. So you really need to pick your moment for the Petzl Leopard. This is going to be fantastic if you're trying to save weight, rubbish if you're trying to climb waterfalls. So as you can see, the more you start delving into crampons, the more options and different products become available to you. And we've covered a selection here today. Now, as I said at the beginning, the Sarkin is my crampon of choice, and I do use it as a bit of an all-rounder. But if I was to spend my money on a crampon, then I'd have to look at this fast and light category because it's something that's missing in my personal arsenal. Having something that specialized that weighs that little would be really useful for me in my climbing life. So perhaps for my birthday, someone can send me some of these. Now, if I was you and you were just getting into the crampon world for the first time, you need to be looking at that all-round section. So something like the G12 or the Sack from Petzl. Why is that? Well, simply these will do 90% of what you need a crampon to do. The more experience you get, the more climbing you do, you can then work out which type of crampon you need to upgrade to. Whether you need to step all the way up to Ober Technical or just stay with Technical, or if honestly an all-round crampon just does it for you. So start with the all-round, get a bit of experience, and then upgrade at a later point. I hope that was useful for you. I've included an extra Climbing Daily video in the copy below that goes through how to sharpen crampons and ice axes, and that is something you need to learn if you're going to keep these for a while. Do let me know if you've used any of the items we've talked about today. Do you like it? Do you hate them? What's your experience of them? Let me know. And of course, there's a link in the description below so you can find everything that we've chatted about today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.